Opponent safe switches into Charger Bug and just look at the smackdown damage. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have another absolute banger of a battle submission from Pateriek, who we're going to refer to as Pat for the duration of the video. And he is here for a good time, not a long time, as we have got a very, very powerful triple shadow team featuring the newly released Crustle. Crustle, a bug and rock type, so let's not kid ourselves. Its defensive typing is dreadful, however it is very oppressive. Any flyers or anything weak to rock is going to take huge damage from the oppressive smackdown. We've also got access to X-Scissor that did get buffed a few seasons ago, which is now a surf clone, so we have a cheap hard hitting charge move. Rounding the team off, we've got a lead of Shadow Skarmory with access to Brave Bird, and my god do we YOLO some birds. And in the closer position, my favourite Pokemon, a Pokemon I've featured recently, Shadow Chandelure. So it's safe to say Pateriek is here for a good time, not a long time, because these battles fly by. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, Pat sees the water type in the lead, the stupid blue mouse. This is exactly where the team want to see it, as we're ABB weak to water. We land the Sky Attack. The opponent near nuke us with the Hydro Pump, but Skarmory manages to hang on, reach Sky Attack number 2, forcing us early shield advantage. Despite Pat being double weak to water, Skarmory's got this Azumarill into a range where Crustle can come in, shield once, commit to the full smackdown farm down, and leave with residual energy. Down goes Azumarill, and out comes Licky, far too thicky, but is Licky thick enough? We fire off the X-Scissor, which lands for decent neutral damage. This is by no means a good matchup for Licky, as Licky's essentially the king of body slam spam, which is resisted. The opponent builds to the power whip bait with the body slam, and Crustle withstands the damage, reaches X-Scissor number 2, forcing the opponent's final protect shield, and we send out Chandelure. The opponent then pivot out into Dugong, but Dugong is not about to have a good time. We YOLO the Shadow Ball, get that Dugong out of here, and the opponent is going to gracefully concede the match, and Chandelure has a very tasty snack, and we win game number 1 in style. Moving on to the next one. Skarmory into Trevenant. Despite type advantage being with our Steel Bird, this is a pretty neutral matchup as we're not using a flying quick move. The opponent build up to a potential Shadow Ball last second Pat, invest that Protect Shield, and it's a good one. However, if I'm being honest, I think you're an absolute lunatic to fire off a double resisted Seed Bomb bait. We return fire with the Sky Attack. Just the Steel Wings have got Trevenant down into the red. I think Skarmory has done its job. Pat agrees, the opponent does win the 1 shield. However, we've got this Trevenant into a range where once again we can send in Crustle, get the smackdown farm down, and leave with residual energy. Crustle has a running start. The opponent taking an eternity to send out a Pokemon. Are they core broken? Yikes, certainly not. Out comes Annihilate. We see the pivot into Chandelure, drawing out Lantern. There's only one wink on, landing the Shadow Ball. Pat full sends it. Does the opponent respect the damage? Oof. The opponent correctly shield up the Shadow Ball. I think that's just going to be game over. Pat is going to invest the Protect Shield on the Surf, but the Spark Sword is far too low, and we even get outpaced to Surf number 2. Crustle's just going to have no way of getting rid of Annihilate. Back out comes Crustle, and I think Pat is going to recognise the game's over and concede the match. Moving on to the next one. We see the battle of Steel types. Both trainers hitting each other for resisted. Pat can't really afford to switch out, as Crustle also doesn't fancy this work of Bronzor. The opponent build up to a potential payback. Pat correctly shields up the payback and is going to YOLO the Brave Bird. This is resisted, but still going to land for decent resisted damage. The opponent show no respect. Near get one shot, we then see a very nice snipe with Chandelure getting us a running start. The opponent opts to send out Charger Bug into a Shadow Incinerate user. Are you serious, Pat? Says it's time to vamp up Chandelure's attack. Flame Charge forces the opponent's first protection, they then throw on alignment. The opponent should have just thrown 1 Volt Switch and the charge move, as we're always getting this Incinerate. However, Pat is certainly not complaining. Their final Pokemon is Annihilate. We force the final Protect Shield with the Flame Charge. The opponent does get the full double resisted counter farm down, but Annihilate so incredibly low. Pat sends out Crustle to operate as the damage sponge. The opponent YOLO the Shadow Ball. We withstand the damage, pivot into Skarmory, and we're going to YOLO the BM Brave Bird and take that game. Chandelure absolutely popping off. Let's go. I really was not kidding in the intro. These battles are just so quick. In the next battle, we see Alolan Ninetales. The opponent says no thank you and safe switch into Licky. Far too thicky. Fun fact, this whole team shits on Ninetales, which is great to see, as I hate toxic Charmers. The opponent safe switched into Licky, far too thicky, but this opponent clearly not a fan of Licky's bulk, as they do shield up the Brave Bird. We then send out Crustle. Pat correctly shields up the Power Whip and is going to start returning fire with these X-Scissors. X-Scissors actually doing quite impressive damage in this battle. Licky usually thick, but this triple shadow team doesn't give a crap about Licky's bulk. Pat going to be able to get the full Smackdown farm down. If Ninetales should return, we're going to get off a few Smackdowns, doing huge damage. The opponent instead send out a Azumarill. Pat recognising he won't make the rockslide, just settles for some chip damage with the resisted X-Scissor. Once again, Crustle's done some huge chip damage and put this thing into a range where Skarmory should be able to knock it out with one charge move. Pat thinking about shielding the opponent bait with the Ice Beam. We withstand the damage. Pat gonna return fire with the Sky Attack. Sky Attack forces Azumarill's final Protect Shield and they even dump energy. Pat in a tough position, just going to put it all on Chandelure. Out comes the candle. The bubble damage tearing us apart. Pat farms up, looks to throw the Flame Charge, but the opponent make a very nice catch, catching the Flame Charge onto Ninetales. Ninetales near gets one shot. Chandelure gets the full Incinerate farm down. We're only one Incinerate away from Flame Charge number 2, and Chandelure sweeps the back line. GG's and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we lead Shadow Skarmory into something that I think is a huge core breaker. Yikes. The whole team has somewhat of a problem of dealing with Jellicent. Despite Skarmory hitting for resisted with the Steel Wings, this is probably our best response. The opponent build up to the Shadow Ball, full send it. Pat says fuck it, I'm going to full send the Brave Bird. Can we sneak it through 2 shields? No, we can't. Pat forced to reset his debuff. We pivot into Crustle, which is weak to water. The opponent fire off the Surf. Surf near one-shots. Crustle, where is your bolt? The opponent then send out Gligar. Pat fires off the Rockslide. Rockslide hits for neutral. And my gosh, we've got this Gligar deep into the red. We can now send out Skarmory. Skarmory running out of HP. A dig will get us incredibly low, but the opponent bait with the Aerial Ace. They're going to fire off back to back. I think Pat has to shield. Pat does invest that protection on Aerial Ace. Number 2, we leave almost at a Brave Bird. Back out comes Jellicent. We fire off Brave Bird. Number 2, does the opponent respect the damage? Get that Jellicent out of here. We pivot into Chandelure. It's a Bomber Snow in the back, and that is going to be check and mate. Speaking of a Bomber Snow, hello trainer. Pat's entire team very, very good into ice types. It's like the opponent's Psychic. I've got no idea why they're staying in. They must know we've got 2 better responses in the back. The opponent debuff us with the Icy Wind and then send out Gligar. Clearly they're core broken by Skarmory, as Gligar is by no means a good Skarmory response, as they can only hit us for resisted with everything in their arsenal. Unless they're running Night Slash, of course, but who the hell runs that? Despite Skarmory being debuffed, we're able to force a Protect Shield with the next Sky Attack. The opponent need to dig to secure the knockout, and they do. Down goes Skarmory. Pat has got himself shield advantage. We send in Crustle. Crustle, unlike Skarmory, going to take neutral from everything that Gligar can throw. The opponent throw the dig. We withstand the damage. Pat looks like he's completely sacking Crustle, saving 2 shields for Chandelure. Let's go, Candle. We get a 1 Incinerate farm down. We know a Bomber Snow won't be returning. What is that third? The opponent, thinking about what they want to send out a Bomber Snow. A Bomber Snow dies to 1 Incinerate. That final Pokemon is Annihilate. Trainer, just top left. We fire off the Flame Charge. The opponent looked to call the bait, but no bait call. We'll be changing this opponent's fate, and Chandelure sweeps once again. Why can I not stop laughing every time I shoutcast Chandelure? It's just hilarious. In the next battle, we see the Battle of Shadows. If this Flygon is staying in, I would not be surprised if they're running Stone Edge. The opponent fire off a charge move, and they do have Stone Edge, which lands for quite a lot of neutral damage. Pat returns fire with the Sky Attack. Sky Attack secures the knockout. Out comes Shadow Haunter. Is this opponent running a full triple Shadow team or a full triple Shadow Glass Cannon team? It's great to see. We send out Crustle. The opponent throw on alignment, so Crustle is going to be able to shield once. Smackdown farm all the way down. Come on, show me a triple Shadow. Boom, Mr. Opponent. You've padded your team out with 1 thick pick, but I respect it because you're running 2 Glass Cannons. The opponent has 2 Protect Shields, 2 hide behind. I think if I was Pat, I might have just looked to commit to the fast move beatdown, as every Smackdown will help. Pat opts to force both Protect Shields with the X-Scissors, and it's going to be down to Chandelure. Can Chandelure outpace to reach a charge move? I think the opponent's going to actually beat us to the double Dark Pulse. Let's see. The first one is shielded. The opponent beats us by a single turn. It's going to be Smackdown versus Snarl. Who will prevail? Have we got enough health to survive a snarl? We do not, and we take the tie. Heading into the next battle, we see Shadow Skarmory into Artifacts, a very nice lead. The opponent stays in and they're getting torn apart by these Steel Wings. The opponent can hit for neutral with the Icy Wind, but Pat should be able to get the full Steel Wing farm down. The opponent continue to stay in. Skarmory leaves absolutely loaded, however we are debuffed. Pat might be debuffed, but a Brave Bird still going to do huge damage. Brave Bird goes unshielded. Are you serious? Scrafty near gets one shot and the opponent pivots out into Wiggles, aka the Marshmallow. Pat fires off the X-Scissor. The opponent forced to start shielding as they literally have only Wigglytuff with any HP. The smackdown damage gets Wigglytuff down to around half health. We send out Chandelure. We're just going to shield up whatever they throw. It's going to be resisted, but at this stage, who cares? We get the full Incinerate farm down and the opponent is going to concede the match. Another very quick game. In the next battle, we see Poliwrath. Despite us being a flyer and them being a fighter, I'd much rather be Poliwrath in this situation. Pat farms up, fires off the Sky Attack, which I imagine forces a Protect Shield, and it does. The opponent over farming massively. This smells like an Icy Wind. Pat, gonna call it. The opponent does throw the Icy Wind. Trainer, that is why you shouldn't bait. As the opponent baited, we should be able to force both Protect Shields with Sky Attack. Number 2, which we do, is now all shields down. We send out Chandelure. Chandelure probably going to get baited, but I wouldn't risk it. Pat does invest that Protect Shield. The opponent continue to masturbate, killing poor defenseless cat after poor defenseless cat. Pat invests his final Protect Shield on yet another bait. If his opponent's watching, please get yourself some help for that horrible masturbating habit. The opponent then pivot out into Aurora's. I think we should pivot, to be honest, as this Weather Ball is resisted and going to get us incredibly low. Poliwrath is still going to be a problem, and we've got Crustle in the back. Pat fires off the next Flame Charge. Flame Charge does secure the knockout. The opponent then send out Dragonair. We get Dragon Breath farmed all the way down, and unfortunately this is going to be a loss, as I think even a non-stab Aqua Tail is going to be enough to take this game. Crustle does survive, but one more Dragon Breath seals the deal. Moving on to the next one. We see the Battle of Flyers, a pretty neutral matchup. The opponent Stage Switch into Clodsire, and this is probably where we want to see it, especially as they're on Poison Sting. The opponent might have Stone Edge, but non-stab Stone Edge isn't all that threatening. You can see we're easily going to be able to survive 2, and the opponent isn't going to be able to Poison Sting farm us down. We YOLO the Brave Bird. Big bad Clodsire thinks it's thick, but that still does huge damage. We pivot into Crustle. Pat, why aren't you shielding? Can we survive a Stone Edge? Oof, just about. Crustle does get the full Smackdown farm down, and we leave minimal farm. Back out comes Mantine. I've got no idea why we're throwing this. Resisted X-Scissor, but the opponent's shield anyway, so I guess we'll take that. I have seen a team with double ground, so perhaps Pat is calling that it's likely Wish Daddy Cash in the back, hence he didn't shield Crustle. We send back out Skarmory. Skarmory very quickly approaching Ice Beam range. We shield up the Ice Beam. The opponent then pivot out into Charger Bug. Oof, if we would have shielded up Crustle, I think Crustle could have actually swept this team. However, that task is now put in the capable hands of our Candle. The Candle shields once, Incinerate farms all the way down. Back out comes Mantine. We fire off the Flame Charge bait. Flame Charge forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Pat fires off Flame Charge. Number 2, this is resisted. However, we have got a huge attack stat and it's boosted. Flame Charge gets Mantine into the yellow. We exited with the Sky Attack, and Sky Attack is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle. We see Skarmory into Annihilate. This, much like the Poliwrath matchup, isn't as good as you would think. The Shadow variant takes a lot of damage from these counters. The opponent build up to a potential Shadow Ball. Pat invest the Protect Shield, and of course the opponent bait with the Ice Punch, as people love to bait Shadow Pokemon. Undeterred, we return fire with the Sky Attack, forcing our shield back. The opponent is going to be able to win the 1 shields if they throw the Shadow Ball. I think we might just about survive an Ice Punch. The opponent correctly fire off the Shadow Ball, taking the 1 shield. We now send out Chandelure. Chandelure gets a very nice running start. What wants to see a loaded Chandelure? The opponent send out Greninja. We pivot into Crustle. Please don't Hydro Cannon. Pat actually chooses to correctly shield up the Hydro Cannon. Just look at this Smackdown damage. We farm up, lose CMP. However, I think Greninja is definitely in Incinerate range. The opponent fire off 1 further Hydro Cannon. Chandelure manages to get the resisted Incinerate farm down. Okay, it's Ninetales. If we survive this Charm. We're going to win the game. No! One charm takes us out. Poor old Chandelure doesn't resist anything. In the next battle, we see a Mandibuzz lead. They say switch into Charger Bug. We answer with Crustle and just look at the smackdown damage. The opponent fire off the crunch, debuffing our defense. Pat could shield once. Look to smackdown farm all the way down. Instead, he opts to throw the X-Scissor. X-Scissor forces a protect shield and the opponent dump energy. I think once again, we're just going to take our shield advantage. The opponent on crunch and discharge. Why would you use Charger Bug with no X-Scissor? I have no idea. Pat sends out Chandelure. One Incinerate is all it takes to delete that little 9-volt battery. The opponent will be returning with Mandibuzz. Pat going to outpace to the Flame Charge. Even from a Shadow Flame Charge, not the best move, but it still gets the opponent into the yellow. Pat continues to stay in. It looks like he's just looking to force the energy and hope Skarmory can sweep. Dark Pulse secures the knockout. We send out Skarmory. The opponent pivot into Shadow Wallface. And in case you're wondering how we beat Wallface, we absolutely do not, and we're going to concede the match. Huge shout out to Pat. That again was so much fun. I'm really enjoying Shoutcast right now, especially with Pokemon like Chandelure. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If, like Pat, you'd like your battles featured on my channel, a link to my battle submission form is down below. And also, today's thumbnail was provided by Pat. That is why it's better than my usual subpar standards. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.